And the question I ask myself is, do I need more knowledge or do I need more action? Which ultimately comes down to this. When the rubber hits the road, can I live more honestly? Can I live more courageously? Can I stand up for what I believe? Can I live within that context even when it's uncomfortable? And when it comes to following Jesus, is my problem a lack of knowledge? Or is it a lack of courage, a lack of action, a lack of doing? And I think to live courageously for Christ, to take action for Christ, I think we need to take hold of 4 beneficial qualities if we would live courageously for Christ. And the qualities that I'm going to list are as follows: justice, prudence, temperance, and fortitude. Now, what are these? Well, I'll do them very fast, very quickly. Justice is giving someone their due, to give what justice demands, or to treat fairly. What's prudence? Prudence is when you know the goal and you take the wise steps to reach the goal. Temperance is doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. You know, for example, Pauline and I like coffee, like most of you. We like our coffee, but we wouldn't drink it at midnight. That's just not going to work. That's not wise. That's not helpful, unless we want to stay up all night, you know, and I don't really. I know Pauline doesn't like to do that. Pauline can fall asleep. Pauline's the most incredible sleeper. She can just snap her fingers and she can basically fall asleep. I know sometimes I wonder even if she had coffee, if she could do that. But that's just not something that is recommended for us, is to do that. Now, of all the 4 qualities we need, the last one I'm going to list, fortitude, or perseverance, is the most important of them. See, fortitude is all the other qualities that I've listed when they're needed most. Fortitude is necessary because it's easy to be good when good is easy. It's easy to be just when just is easy. It's easy to be honest when honest is easy. It's easy to be generous when generous is easy. Generosity, pardon me. It's easy to do these things when there are no bad consequences from doing them. And if I live out the qualities such as being just, kind, honest, and generous when it suits me, when it's easy for me, I need to ask myself, to sit down and ask myself this question, to see if I really possess these qualities in the first place. Jesus wants more from us. Jesus wants more for us. And his desire is that we would come to see the world with his eyes and practice these virtues as he did. And there's scripture in Isaiah 56, 1-3, where the Lord, through Isaiah the prophet, says, "Be just and fair to all. Do what is right and good. For I am coming soon to rescue you and to display my righteousness among you. Blessed are all those who are careful to do this. Blessed are those who honor my Sabbath days of rest and keep themselves from doing wrong." What's this passage about? They obviously know what they're supposed to do. And now the Lord, through his prophet, is saying, do it. Live it out concretely. Do these things. Don't just know it. Live it. Be fair and good to each other. Do what is right and good, and be with and continue to persevere in these things. Because trouble was going to come on the Israelites soon. And he was telling them, this is what you need to do. This is how you're going to not only survive, you're going to do well with these things. Honor what I've given you to honor, and do it in a concrete and practical way by loving one another and taking care of one another. So what's the main point of this? Well, 2 words simply. Take action. Because knowledge without action is useless. We need to act on what we know, or we are powerless. And powerless is not a good place for us to be. You see, what Bonnie read us this morning about the lady in the account, what we heard in Matthew's gospel this morning, is an example of what it means to be utterly powerless. This woman had a big strike going against her. She was Canaanite, and she was a descendant of Israel's ancient enemies. Not a good place to be when you're living around them. And here she is, taking this risk. But she says, I've heard about Jesus. I know some things about him. I've got to see him. And she takes action. In spite of all the adversity, possible adversity she could face, she goes and she meets Jesus there. Well, good luck with that. Because it really is a bold move. She has no status among them. And to top it all off, this poor woman has a demon who's got a hold of her daughter. She's really stuck. Now, she didn't have much to fall back on, but she did have 2 things going for her. She did live in that part of the country, so she had some knowledge of Jesus. I don't know how much it was, but there must have been some. But as I've been saying this morning so far, the main point is she took action. She recognized that he was the Lord, he was the Christ. She says to him, calls him Lord, Son of David. She knows. Think about this. What she knows is good, but she doesn't know a whole lot. I think what you and I would know about Jesus in this day and age would dwarf anything that she knew about him. And here's the deal. This is what we need to take hold of today, like she did. She acted on what she knew. She didn't just know it. She went out and took the action that was necessary, uncomfortable as it was, hard as it was, as threatening and intimidating as it might have been. She had to see Jesus. She didn't give up. She persevered. Because knowledge without action, as we've said before, is useless. And it's interesting, notice in verse 23, if you look at that, Jesus did not answer her at first. He doesn't acknowledge her. And he doesn't respond to her. And the disciples are getting decidedly ticked off with her. They would just rather she go away and you could plug your ears and somebody would go away or something like that she would not be around because she's just a troublemaker. Get rid of her. And although he remained silent at first, he didn't get rid of her. But what did he tell her after that? That she had no part in his work. Because when he did speak to her, he told her he was only sent to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel. And then he said something else to her. Now, we just, in some versions of the Bible, he said, he uses the term dogs. And that's the right word. It was a very derogatory title that Jews would give to Canaanites, to Gentiles. But here, and not all versions of the Bible tell us this. I was looking at one version where it said he called her one of the little dogs. See, he used little as a way to soften the harshness of calling her a dog. The little dogs, their kids would feed them at the table. And sort of, my dog's little, growing up but little, but I still feed her lots. Just ask Pauline. I'm my dog's best friend, and she loves me to bits because I feed her lots of bits. he was softening this up. Jesus is doing something here. But why is he pushing her buttons like this? Why does he come off as ignoring her and then giving her a hard time? I think this is the playful side of Jesus. I think he's just pushing us. He's just nudging us. He's just working on us. And what he's doing is he's pushing her to become stronger in her faith and to become a stronger intercessor for her daughter. What's he doing? He's building her faith. And we might not like the way God builds our faith at times, but he does the things he does for a reason. And it's to build us up, to make us strong and resilient, to make us effective. He was building her faith. Now, I just admire this woman. She didn't know much, but she has so much bravery, so much more bravery than I would at times, so much courage. So what is bravery in this instance? Bravery is doing the right thing in the midst of fear, in spite of the negative fallout that may come from that. That's what, and what Jesus was calling her to, he's calling us to. He's calling us to courageous action, which is not where I'm at times. Sometimes instead of going out to the battle, I hold back until the battle comes to me. Sometimes I'm tempted to sidestep the battle when it's coming at me, so I can just get out of the way and hopefully I won't have to deal with this. And sometimes I want to stay seated when I should be getting up. That's when I need the bravery and fortitude that this woman had. We need to act. Jesus wants us to act on what we know. It's like if you had a reservoir and all you did was get water into it, but there was no water that was draining out of it. Well, you fill the thing until it's full, and then what happens if that water doesn't go out? It gets stagnant. It doesn't do anything. It's not even good to use after a while. No, the water has to keeps coming in, and it needs to go out. It needs to come in and it needs to go out. We're doing this whole thing. And that's important because we need to understand that the life of a Christian is not just knowing, it's doing. What can we do for our church? What can we do for our larger community? What can we do to be a help? And not feel intimidated by it. You know, we can ride in a plane and we trust the pilot. Or we can go on a cruise and we trust the guy who's steering the boat. Can we not trust the God who created all, who is over all, and stands by us and has said he will help us in his word? This lady thought, here is the Holy One, this anointed one. And she needed to trust in him, to call out to him, and continue to call out to him. She had this knowledge that Jesus is her only hope. So she acts in bravery. She persists and she perseveres in the good. She called out to him, and she needed to keep calling, to keep going. As I wrap up here this morning, folks, you know, we talk about saints. And it's always interesting when I've taught Sunday school or I've used it in a sermon or whatever, and I ask people if they're saints and they get this puzzled, they think they're saints and they get this puzzled look on their face. Or they don't believe it. They're going like, me a saint? I'm not a saint. But I would say to you, if you love Christ, if you believe in Christ, you are a saint. And here's why. Being a saint is never about falling or failing. See, that's not holiness. We see here that holiness is about trusting in Jesus. Why did Jesus not respond to her initially and say what he said to her after? I don't know. Other than to say that Jesus wasn't just healing her daughter, he was doing something in her. He was allowing her to grow in trust. By doing something in her, he was allowing her to grow in hope. By not responding to her immediately, he was helping her to be more brave. In this moment where we are, God is here. And I need to ask myself, do I need more knowledge to do God's will, or do I need more courage to use what I know to step out in faith and live for Jesus? Not to run towards the battle, not in an act of willpower, because that's not going to work, but in an act of trust. Remember, folks, we are not going alone. Jesus is with us, and he hears us crying out to him. And now that we know enough, it's time to be brave enough. See you next week.